video call.
I think it is too.
I just feel like we've been friends from a distance for so long.
Yeah.
Because you hang out with all the cool kids.
Well, if you know that they're cool kids, then you're a cool kid back.
I'm in the club, cool. And like I remember there was this moment where someone approached me for, I've forgotten his name off the top of my head, but he does like the what is it? Is it art of healthcare? I think he's a physiotherapist. But he asked me for some recommendations of people to speak, and I was like, oh, like you should interview Jackie O'Connor and like Rachel Callender. And he's like, no way, I already did. They're already on my list. And then you look around the podcast and you're like, yeah, I know all the cool kids on the block. And now I'm on your podcast and I feel very excited about that. And we're in matching dresses. And I've got, you can't see it, but I'll show you because you are recording. But I have pink high heels on too.
What? Oh my gosh, I know so many people who are going to love that right now.
And you know what? My beautiful friends and family, Peter and Gigi, were like, why are you even putting the heels on? No one's going to see it. I'm like, I'm going to find a way. A way. And here we are.
You're like Dorothy. I'll show them.
Yeah, precisely. You've got it, Jackie.
And I feel like I want to say that, you know, always the bridesmaid, but never the bride. But I actually want to say, like priestess energy, like.
Yes, I'm here to bring the goddess energy, and you know, and how apt to bring in Hekate today.
I love it. And is that what happened? I hope people are watching this on YouTube and not listening to this because it's so worth watching.
Yeah, you'd be missing out otherwise.
Yeah. Because the dress, we're both wearing the same dress, and literally it's galactic, isn't it? Like
absolutely fantastic. And as soon as I saw your podcast advertisement, I was like, Jackie, I need to DM you immediately. Like it's meant to be.
I love it. And I love like because we're going to talk about Hekate and you. But we've got lots of moons and stars, and then we've got like the Eye of Horus, and we've obviously lots of hearts, which, you know, makes sense because we're Heart Place Hospital.
Yes.
And the snake energy and the dragon and bird energy, and totally meant to be.
Tell you what, Hekate almost, and I say that very loosely because I'm dramatic, but almost ended up with a snake emblem, but we thought maybe that's a bit too much for Aotearoa to cope with in Auckland, Dunedin. But almost. I remember walking past the medical school like every day and seeing they've got an emblem somewhere on the wall on some place, and I was like, missed opportunity.
Yeah, dang, I know. Heart Place Hospital, I'm just looking at it now, and there's Koru and stars and moon, and then we do have this feminine being with angel wings, so we're pretty brave out there. Not too long ago, I think would have been, you know, we would have been burnt off with our heads.
I mean, if you're, are you even living in 2024 if you weren't by a ye old times be, you know, on the number one list for that?
Yeah, totally. Well, just as I expected, Liz, this is not gone like it normally goes. So usually I kind of come in with a haere mai. Yeah. I kind of come in with a haere mai to my Heart Place, to your Heart Place, to Heart Place Hospital podcast.
We can edit it over. It's
no. Oh no. I totally want this neurospicy to come out big time. Yeah. And then usually share how I found you or how we've been connected. But I don't know, the dress, the energy.
I feel like I did the prelude to how I met you, like before you got the opportunity.
Yeah. But our connector is really, I believe, is Anna Ackman. That was yeah.
And then I think there was some connections around with like Helen de Veston, I think.
Yeah.
But and in fact, these shoes, which I'll show again. These are special shoes because many moons ago, when I was like on the precipice of like, I'm absolutely done with nursing, absolutely done. I barely started, but you know, here's me. And I can get into the reasons of that later. But I remember just Googling for, I don't know what I was looking for, but anyway, I found Anna, and I was Googling like holistic nurse or like nurses that are different or entrepreneurs. I don't really know what I put in, but Anna Aikman came up on like, I think it was the Nurse Coach Association or like nurse coaching and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. And I was like, I need to talk to her. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm audacious enough to be like, and I pretty much just called her up, or I sent her an email. It was probably something unhinged at like 3 a.m. I want to talk. And she was like, we're going to meet. So I think she was in Timaru and I was in Ōtepoti Dunedin, and we met like part way or something, or we met a few times. So I'm kind of messed up on the timelines, but anyway, we eventually met in person and we just hit it off and just talked forever and about, you know, nursing and who we were, and you're more than a nurse, and you're all these dynamic, complicated things that, you know, society doesn't really like that dynamicism. They want you to make sense, and they want you to do the job you're assigned to do and just shut up, really. And I can tell you about a time I actually had a question limit. It was enforced upon me in my transition in nursing school. That's a really funny story. I will tell that. Anyway, me and Anna came together and she had these amazing ideas, and that's where she did the inaugural event, Changing Lenses, which was a experiential event for nurses, but open to anyone that wanted to come along and look at value-based leadership, empathy, kindness in our societies and in our healthcare sectors. And we pinched Rachel Callender over from Australia, which was amazing. And we had I'm like, really should have prepped these names, but I didn't know what I was going to talk about because, you know, spice brain. But we had this amazing director that did a film on nurses as well. I think it's called The American Nurse, and there were a lot of tears in the audience. And anyway, we were wearing, because Anna's fantastic, she's like, we are wearing pink and red. That is our theme colors. So I got this gorgeous polka dot suit. Should have grabbed that out. It's my wardrobe. It's pink, white, retro, New Zealand made. I wore it with a cute little white belt. In fact, I'll get you a photo and you can overlay it. Okay. And it's super cute. And I bought these shoes, and they were the most ridiculous purchase I ever made. I'm such an op shopper, but I brought them brand new. So I feel really excited and happy when I wear these pink shoes. And that's my story I wanted to share about how I met Anna and how I know you.
Oh my God, full circle. I love it. Yeah. What would life be without Neurospicy?
It would be really quiet.
Yeah.
Really boring.
Yeah, totally. So really introducing you, Liz. Do you prefer Liz or Elizabeth?
I've actually rebranded. So my stage name is now Elle Zizik. So I reclaimed my Zizik. I reclaimed my family name. So that is my mother's maiden name. So that's Serbian, and we've got heritage from Serbia and Hungary, and bits of other bits over there. And you know, Dad's like, you know, born and picked in and Kiwi. You know, just bit of everything. And so yeah, I reclaimed that, and I was like, you know, I need a lift. I've, you know, finally hit the 30s, so I'm like, Elle. I will rebrand myself to Elle Zizik. But yeah, Elizabeth for anything fancy. But call me Elizabeth. Call me whatever you want. Jackie can call me whatever she damn well wants.
Oh, yeah, we're in the goddess dresses, so I don't even it's just telepathy, really, isn't it? Like,
Honestly,
sister.
We can talk so everybody else hears us, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's a true story, but I really do want to share with the world because this is going global. You're the co-founder and managing director of Hekate, which before we even get into Hekate, I just want to say thank you for being bold, for calling this movement Hekate, which is, of course, goddess of the moon, and how fabulous. And I also really want to celebrate you because last year you were awarded Young Nurse of the Year runner-up.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. For challenging the status quo, and the I remember telling people, like, I was like, you guys, I got a nurse award. And they were like, I was like, guess what category? And they're like, well, and they started listing all my traits, like, you're really, what did they say? You're always questioning things. You don't really do what you're told. And they laugh. They go, they'll never give an award for that. I'm like, no, hot, like lightning hot. Like, you're on the category. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, the category was challenging the status quo. And they were like, they just cracked up laughing. They're like, I didn't even know that would be something that would be rewarded. And I was like, it's the only time. And it was my time. And it was like the last moment I could ever be awarded it, because there's a cutoff for like 30 for that category. But I was like, if there is ever an award I was ever meant to get, and it's very on brand. So now this way, if anyone's like, just stop questioning things, or just, why do you keep being so challenging about everything? And I was like, what did you think when you hired me? I literally won an award for it. Like, I was celebrated at Te Papa Museum with, the CEO of Te Whatu Ora, Magi Apa, and all nurse leaders. Like it's just your fault now if you didn't know that about me. Like, Google me. No.
Yeah.
No, it was absolutely phenomenal. And I'll tell you what, my brother Gigi, or my third cousin, we call him my brother, sister over there, he literally flew from Serbia, and I hadn't seen him since 2019. So this was 2023 that I last October I won the award. So he literally flew from Serbia, touched down in Auckland, drove from picked up my sister, I think, somewhere from Hamilton, and they ended up in Wellington. And that was such a story and a half on how we got to there. And I think all about that, how all 3 planes were cancelled that morning. Then we had to find a way, and we got through on the call center within like 37 seconds, which was amazing, with Air New Zealand. And I rebooked us flights, and we went to Queenstown. Then the car broke down halfway through. We had to get tie-ups, like little zip ties to like fix it under the car, which some man in a car shop did when he saw it, fell down in front of it. And he's like, there's no way you girls are doing that yourself. Anyway, to tie that up, we finally got to Queenstown Airport. That was delayed. We got changed in the Queenstown Airport. We looked like off-duty influencers, and then someone lost a phone, and then we were trying to debate who's getting left behind and not going on the plane. Then we got on the plane, and I'm texting like one of the most like emotionally supportive advisors from NZNO, and I'm like, we're in Wellington, but we're not off the plane yet. And we were 2 hours late. The ceremony started at 6 for the awards. We got into Wellington at 6:15, and they had to, in classic fashion, like in classic me fashion, they delayed the ceremony for my arrival, which was absolutely friggin' hilarious. And so we finally arrive in, and they meet us at the door. My brother Gigi's there, and he's just screaming and throwing me up in the air. And then we finally rush to get up there, and we just walk in. And when we just walk in, all 5 of us now, because my sister's there, which was amazing because I haven't seen her for years as she's in law school. And we walk in, and they just announced, like, we're just going to delay the ceremony. We're going to have dinner, and then we all arrive in. And I was just like, perfect. See, it always works out. Like, being late, it works out. It's fine. It's totally fine. So, and they had this great speech that I popped on about, being brave enough to be yourself, as that's what people need more than ever in healthcare. We need people to be radically themselves and be brave enough and give themselves permission to do that. So in turn, it gives other people permission to be themselves. And gosh, it's a much better world when we have the space and capacity and freedom to do so. Everybody benefits from that, rather than this arbitrary mask that we feel we have to pop on, or have popped on for lots of different reasons, whether that's because we're not quite comfortable with our own selves, or because often that's not rewarded. Being yourself is often not rewarded. But that was all the money we had to do to get to Wellington. And I was also really privileged to also be nominated for a local award with the Inspiring Women's Award, which is associated with women's fundraisers for Women's Refuge, and that was highly commended medalist for Inspiring Women of Otago. So that was really, really cool. But I got it. I hit my head really bad, like really, really bad, under the house. Don't recommend it. So I've been kind of out of the count since, like, gosh, like August or no, since like October last year. So I feel like I've like in the last 2 weeks I've kind of like come back out into society. I'm like, hi everyone. I know I appeared off the face of the earth, but I'm back now with a new name, and better than ever. So it was a really hard year personally, and like a really profoundly amazing year. There was like nothing neutral. Like it would have been nice to have some just neutral then, but it was like so yeah, and now we've slipped into 2024, and it was just my birthday on the 1st of March, so it's been one heck of a time.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I talk about 2023 was the year we purged, and 2024 was the year we emerged. Yeah,
and like it.
Yeah, and I was the 2nd of January. I had a significant birthday, 2nd of January. So
you're Aquarian. No,
Capricorn. I'm like the goat that hangs on to the side of that wall. Don't you forget it. So yeah, we're totally twinning it in sync. Yeah.
Not surprised.
No surprises. And then the hair.
Curly girls.
Yeah, curly girls rule the world. Wow, what a ride. And I actually literally followed you getting to Wellington, and I was here and
on the Instagram.
I was following you, and I was in Northland Lake, and I was doing all my inner goddess manifestation to get you there, because I absolutely knew that you're a game changer. So I was like, right, come on, protege. come on, representative.
We were off our heels and we ran and they let us through because we looked really dramatic, like we were late for a wedding or something, because I was holding one of the dresses and there as well, because I didn't know which one I might have felt like before going on stage. So we had 3, and we had to get our hair done in 15 minutes at Vivo in Queenstown, because Gigi was going to do our hair, and I was like, you've got 15 minutes, I'm about to be on a stage, and they were like, no pressure, like no pressure.
This sort of hair.
Yeah. I think it was just straight. I think we just went, that was done. But just we're never self-made, and it's I think more people should nominate more people. If I had anything I wanted to be like a new pet project, it's just your girl clubs getting together, all your cool kids getting together, and just figuring out what are all the awards for the year and just nominating everyone. And also, like, on that note, I saw a really cool trend of some scientists in STEM who started nominating all her like female friends, or like people that she thought should have high profiles that were doing amazing stuff, and she's like, you know what, I'm just gonna start making Wikipedia pages about them. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna jump on that train this year, and I'm gonna start making Wikipedia pages for people. And I'm just like, let's just do that. Let's just do it.
I'm in. I'm keen to join that club. I had this thing. I had this kind of monthly thing that I would write a note, like a card, to someone, and send it in the post, mostly because I love receiving. So I just thought someone else would love receiving that. But I'm loving what you're saying. This is an upgrade.
It's pretty. I like it. A bit more like immortalized, like you're in the interwebs, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think that's part of it is our superpower, isn't it? As feminine beings. This time we were chosen to be in this body with the womb, and I think it's a really good segue into Hekate. We can't not talk about Hekate. We've got to talk about.
We can't talk about Hekate.
Let's talk about Hekate.
Yes. So
go for it.
Okay. So I'm like, where should I start? What would she like to say today? So Hekate was like the planning of it and coming to that name was a long time coming. So I was aware of this, of this deity, of this goddess, and when I was looking for what we were kind of creating and cultivating, it was that really deep work, lots of dreaming, lots of reading, lots of listening, and lots of what's that word? Not coincidences, synchronicities, and just really figuring out what is it that I'm actually like birthing here or creating here beyond this embryonic state. And I'm such a lover of storytelling and narrative, and like I always say words wrong, but anyway, it's like Jungian psychoanalyst theory, or looking deeply at that intuitive analysis. And there's lots of different lexicon that people like for that, so whether that's spirituality or intuitiveness, or that's actually the only two words that come to mind anyway. You come up with more of them, but for me, I'm very visual spatial with this spicy brain of mine, so sometimes it's really difficult, despite appearances, for me to come up with words of the things I'm trying to describe, which is probably why I'm more wordy than is ever necessary, because I feel like I still haven't fully explained what I'm feeling or seeing. So, a picture says 1,000 words, and make us feel things, and it can take a little bit of time for words to kind of catch up. So I was trying to find something that felt like people could have a connection with or feel something about it, whether that was maybe initially uncomfortable or sometimes even fearful. That's what powerful feminine deities do, and they've been prosecuted or twisted through history. Like there's some really good books on like the rotting goddess to talk about Hekate, and although her history, I'm not a scholar, but her history is got a lot of scholars that have dedicated so much time to Hekate and what are her origins and where does she come from and what pantheons and things. So it's what we do know is that she may have had different names through history. Sometimes she's been kind of associated as being Artemis and mixed up with that as well, but there's distinct origin stories around that. She is got a lot of negative press, as it were, but also a lot of when you dig a bit deeper into the bones of who she is, you get into some fantastic storytelling. And I love reading about kind of modern contemporary literature on talking about Hekate or talking about Persephone and what they would have been like, or if we looked at it through a different lens. So for Hekate, I look at her as the dark mother archetype, which is where we go to her with our wounds and our need for healing, and she can take it, and she doesn't do the work for us, but she can sit with us so deeply in that space, and she can provide us with the tools, and she can walk alongside her. So some of her symbology is around this is actually kind of funny because anyone has been like, it's been 2 years and you said nothing about Hekate, and I'm just like, right now, meta experience, I'm doing it now with Jackie. So I'm doing it. So she has different symbols. So she has the torch, which I was thinking ice cream, because when we made a symbol it looked like an ice cream. I'm like, it's not an ice cream, it's a torch. So she has the torch and the flame. She has the key. Some say she has the symbol of the dog as well. Some other animals might be associated with that. And she's kind of confounded with being like the queen of hell, which is really quite a stretch because that's not even in her her origin story whatsoever, and kind of not relevant at all. But she goes to the underworld, so that's kind of where an overlap can come. And you must imagine what it was like trying to talk to people to get interested in the concept of Hekate, and they Google her and the first thing that comes up is the Queen of Hell. You got to do a really hard sell on that. I'm like she's just misunderstood. Aren't we all? She's complicated. But she's been said to be the original like Queen of Witches. She is a healer. She has other sisters, you could say, that are part of that, and she knew how to heal, she knew how to harm, and she wasn't one to be trifled with whatsoever, and she did not give a shit what you thought of her. She had shit to do and she did not care. But one of the stories that people have heard a lot of is how Persephone is taken to the underworld and Hekate goes there and brings her out of there. So there's lots of different ways that can be interpreted, but I quite liked the concept of that Hekate went there to check and see if Persephone was in need, and had this torch and did walk alongside her with her agency to choose to come back. And then Persephone would spend, I think it was half of the year there. I'm like, oh, I haven't brushed up on my Greek storytelling, but that's how I like to remember it briefly. And she doesn't come, or it doesn't come across in her legacy that she is judgmental or unconsidered. She's very grounded, very powerful, and she doesn't have to do anything to be that. She just is that. And she is misconstrued. She is got a enforced questionable reputation, but not because she did anything. She just existed. But she did used to teach, I think, the pantheon kind of god children like how to heal and how to harm, the art of poisons, the art of healing. So it was very fitting as we use herbal medicine at Hekate. And she also rules the I always get this word wrong. It's liminal or liminal spaces? Liminal spaces?
I say liminal.
Liminal, yeah. Correct. We'll go with liminal. Yeah. We're going to go with liminal. She rules the liminal spaces. And when we're looking at, this language that we went with around like journeys and this reclaiming the narrative around your own experience. Hekate was so fabulous for that, because whenever we were looking at what should we do when we're working with people, we go, what would Hekate do? We would go, what if she was here in modern contemporary now, how would she say it? What would she do? And how would she think about it? So for us, we're not, there to tell people what to do, and that's such a thing that's common in healthcare, this real paternalistic way of working with people, and there's obviously huge power dynamics, and there's lots of work we can do to kind of reduce those and minimize those, but they still exist by design of institutions. And when we're working one-on-one with people, like as myself or as yourself, it's being aware of that visionary kind of transformational approach around, it's not about us, it's about them, but it is about that journey. And you're going to come across different people, whether they challenge you or whether they give you resources or insight along the way. So for us, we've got these tools that we think of how Hekate has them, which is the torch, and we go, here's a way that we can go forward together if you've been lost or stuck between these liminal spaces, especially if you feel like you can't go forward, or even those in-between spaces such as fertility journeys or thinking about conception and these different things, which are really sensitive, deep topics for a lot of people as well. So it's about knowing that there's the Stark mother as well, who has seen it and felt it and knows it, even if you don't say it, if you're not even sometimes sincere with your own experience because you want to look like everything's fine or you're enjoying it. But these things are really difficult journeys, and we do such a disservice to people that are wanting to become pregnant or experiencing pregnancy, and we make out that it's this most Instagram beautiful experience, and you're going to love every second of it and but that's not real. And almost it does so much harm with this expectation that there must be something wrong with me if I don't feel what that person's feeling, because it's so taboo to even start to deconstruct that. Like, what is motherhood or parenthood? What does it mean what happens to my identity if that changes? And am I a terrible person or failing in some way? So this journeyman around this shadow self is really important, because when we do healing, that's not pretty. Healing bones is not pretty, let alone healing that deep soul work and these experiences. So I always kind of say, like, although we have not to discount what we do and like just reduce it immediately, but we have tools. So we use nutrition, we use herbal medicine, we use pathology testing for that diagnostic approach, and we use interventions, and we do all this stuff. But what I always talk about is it's actually the relationship and the relational experience of being supported, and it's the narrative that that person has about their own experience, which is where a lot of healing happens. So we often miss the boat in healthcare when we look at, say, rehab, for example, rehabilitation principles. We miss the soul and spirit of it all. If you thought that healing was they have a routine, they took their meds, their bones are healed, and they can shower when appropriate and eat 3 meals a day, we've missed the spirit of it all, because we have identity changes, we have role confusion, we have our entire world gets really, really small when we're in this illness role or sick role or seeking wellness and struggling to find a light that we can go towards that makes things start to make sense again. You almost fall to the bottom of that barrel really, really dark and deep, and you just don't actually know where to go. And that surrender is terrifying for a lot of people, that stopping and that reckoning with yourself. So when looking at a lot of the mythology or legacy or information about Hekate, it just made the most amount of sense. And there's this grounded power that, and with our designer that we went through, who is I'm so terrible with names. It'll come back to me. It will come back to me. Gemma's name. Anyway, she's great. She helped us sit in that space looking at, I've never thought so much about fonts and colors and types, and it turns out I can't see as many colors as I thought was like natural, because me and Bella did a test, or Peter, and I'm missing a whole lot of colors. So pink looks, apricot's apparently pink in my eyes and all sorts. So you get to this thing of what are you trying to paint, what emotion are you trying to convey, how would Hekate come across, or this version of Hekate that we're cultivating, because she's a dynamic person. So looking at fonts and looking at the way we went about portraying it, I drew so many yoni symbols. I got right into like sigils, and I just got lost in it. And then I handed over to Peter, and I was like, I can't anymore. I'm so lost, and I don't want to make the wrong decision on the final concept. Like, I am overwhelmed. But it's having I feel like there's this grounded power with her that's so understated. It doesn't have to show off. It doesn't have to do anything in particular. It just needs to speak to the truth of things, or to the facts of things, because truth is not always the same as facts when you're looking at a personal truth, because that can differ between people. But we thought, how would she say things if she was around in this 21st century? How would she make change? What would her approach be? And how can we make that relatable when we're looking at deities, because they do transcend borders and transcend cultures, archetypes, which I adore. There's always some medicine that we can take out of that, and I really love the works of like Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who's medicine storyteller, and her work in The Woman Who Ran with the Wolves, and some of her other archetypal medicine books as well. So I just feel like when you have a story to tell, and we have so much in Aotearoa rich within our Indigenous culture, our Māori culture, and I loved, as I worked in mental health services for 10 years, I loved seeing and reading about how they were bringing in storytelling narratives of these atua and gods and archetypes, because that is a dynamic, complex, sometimes messy journey, hard journey that these say characters go through. And especially when you look at the archetype of the witch, for example, and that's something that instantly brings things to mind. And although not a lot of people have heard of Hekate, it does get people curious, and then people like to read and go into that as well. But with, like, say, the archetype of the witch, which is a sub kind of archetype you could look at Hekate as. If you're going to take on that role, say in your work, like in your work as a healthcare professional, or no matter where you may be, that means you're going to be going against the grain. So by default, if you look at an archetypal story of that, you are going to be, at risk of being burned at the stake, and that very visceral way. It's a wounding of the soul, it's a wounding of the spirit, and the extra kind of betrayal that can come upon that is that a lot of people secretly agree with you or privately agree with you, but they don't have the power that you have to stand in that truth as well. So if you kind of get into this pathway by accident or otherwise into challenging the status quo, and you're kind of feeling alone in that, you can take heart in these stories, and you'll find people, you'll find your crowd with that as well. But if you're going to walk that path, it's not personal, it's just by default. You chose that path, you chose that journeyman. So therefore, this is what's in store. Like, in case you were wondering, like, in case that like shocked you, like, it's not like they're all going to be like, you know what, that's great, like, Elle, that's fantastic. We'll just, yep, you do all of that, and we'll just stay out of the way, and like, you can just do your thing. That's not what happens. And you know, the witch is also a healer, and a lot of the time, I think, especially in healthcare, and I'd love to hear your perspectives at Heart Place Hospital. I think healing, or the view of the healer, is often seen as you're kind of just meeting the need, or people pleasing is what I'm getting for, as people think that healing or helping is this people pleasing behavior where you just do nice things for people because that's what you think they need, or what they want. But that's not how healing works on that transformational level. It's the dark night of the soul, it's the reckoning with yourself, it's the dysfunction that happens within a family unit or support network when that person does become not who you knew they were, as they deconstruct themselves and come back. And sometimes we see that deconstruction in real time, and other times it kind of blindsides us out of nowhere, and we all of a sudden are like, you're not who you were, but really they're just becoming who they always were. Or that we have to accept that as human beings, we're going to be dynamic, we're going to evolve, we're not going to be this static figure. And when we go through role changes and identity changes, whether that's in work or family units, or things that are ascribed to us, or things that we kind of are born into culturally.
Our rites of passage, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, you know, people really struggle with kind of just implode one day when they just are like, I don't even know who I am. And I'm just kind of playing a role, and then feeling extremely resentful of anybody else, or any of the people that I think I'm being such a great support for, in whatever role that is. And then, you know, you kind of ask the question of like, why don't you feel like you can do all the things that you see them doing? And often it's the first time people have even noticed that there's a difference in permission, or like what they think is possible for themselves. So there's when we're looking at healing or nursing or being in the sector, although I worked in mental health, so it is a bit of a culture shock whenever I go back into like proper medical public health, when you're like, when you're in mental health, I don't really stand out that much. But medical, I'm like, oh, I'm a freak. Psych nurses are too sassy now to fit in with the normies, just a little bit too much spice amongst it. But
bring it on.
I mean that with love. But I was so used to working in spaces where communication was really normal, and talking about really deep subjects was really normal, and just seeing such a wide variety of human expression, and having like a really high capacity for that variety. And often that can be pathologized a lot, but it's human beings having a very human experience, and we're trying to help them on that way back to wherever they're going, because that looks different for everyone at different stages and different experiences. But yeah, when we're looking at archetypes, when we're looking at who we are, when we look at identity, we've got to start with ourselves, so that we can have that capacity to understand how we're journeying together with other people. And it's not saying that everybody needs to work at that level of depth and complexity all the time, but that's certainly where I love to operate from, and I love to work in those spaces with other people that have that visionary drive and see things differently and see what's possible if we just made some changes in the way we do things. So if you're going to choose the path of challenging the status quo, just know that it comes with some milestones and some, like, telenovela seasons of like challenge. But take power in it, because if you know your why and you know your values and you know who you are, this challenge to your vision or mission is there to sharpen your focus. So take it as a compliment that people are noticing and they are challenging you, because if you feel like you can't answer, then maybe you haven't worked out your why enough yet. But yeah, it's pretty wild. And how you feel about it, like at the start of my journey with this, I used to get very dysphoric about it, because I just couldn't understand why people couldn't feel or see what I thought was so obvious to me. But then I realized that over time I found people that secretly thought that too, but didn't know, or had been viscerally kind of like smacked into a wall of like, shut up, like, don't say that, like, don't be like that. And when we look at social conditioning and social norms, it's very, very frightening to be socially isolated or on the out group for whatever reason that might be. And so people try very, very hard to participate in that, because there's a lot of social safety with that, particularly for us as social human beings and social creatures. But curiosity is not, my experience or my level of curiosity, which seems to have no limitations at all ever, is that it's not often rewarded, and questions are viewed as questioning authority, rather than asking a question to help deepen my understanding so I can really understand why something's happening. So a funny story for you was when I was in nursing school and I was in my final year, and my final, like, I can't remember how long transition is, maybe it's like 12 weeks or something, and I was in operating theatre, and I was like, I'm going to be a theatre nurse, and I realized that all the patients are asleep and you can't talk to them. But anyway, I liked the concept of theatre. I was really good at it, and then I was like, maybe I could have been a mechanic in another life. Like, I was really good at getting these tools together and apart, and like, can't count, but at least you only have to count to like 12 a lot of the time when you're putting things in and out. So you don't have to count a lot. You don't have to do long division, but you got to count, you got to be good with tools, and you got to speak up for things as well. But I remember my curiosity has no bounds. And as an adult, I learned, instead of kind of asking the question out loud the moment I had it, I just kind of Google it now. So if you ever see me in a meeting or in a conference and I'm just not making eye contact, I'm actually absorbing much more, and I'm Googling things to enhance what I'm understanding about what people are saying. Because let me tell you, there's a limit, and I found it, and I found the limit professionally, and I got put on 3 questions per hour limit of questions. And I'm not even joking you. I was had a meeting with the charge nurse of theatre, my preceptor, and I think it was I don't know, it was the clinical nurse specialist, or I mean, like, who has this happen to you? Who has an intervention? They interventioned me on my amount of questions, and then I was like, so like it restarts every hour, or like is it like 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, like 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock? And so what happened was I didn't stop having the freaking questions, and I was just like bursting inside to go and Google it. So then all I did is I had this book and I wrote them down like pathologically, like I was writing everything down that I had. And then do you know what happened, Jackie? Do you know what happened like a week into this intervention that they thought would be a solution to my interpersonal conflicts? Do you know what happened?
What?
I got a complaint that I wasn't interested enough in any of the procedures.
Oh my gosh, I've had this with many a nurse that I've coached, where they've been told one day they're too loud, too much, too whatever, and then the next day someone else has gone, what's wrong with you? You're too quiet today. And they're like, Jackie, I can't win. Like,
and you know what the best part was? While they were telling me this, and I'm just smirking like, well, we all know that's false. Like, we all know that's categorically incorrect. I got called over the loudspeaker by one of the surgeons to come and, like, by name, which is unusual because they don't care. You're a student, who cares? And they called me in while they were just saying I wasn't interested enough and there's been complaints and da-da-da-da. And the surgeon called me in to come in to watch and assist. And I just remember looking at them. I said, well, I understand that you will think I'm not interested enough, but clearly the surgeon, who somehow knows my name, thinks I'm interested enough and has requested. So is it okay if I go and watch? And they just look so exasperated, like, just like, we don't understand. We don't understand it. And you know what? That is the story of my life, Jackie. I always say that I am chronically misunderstood, chronically, fundamentally, instinctively not understood. And my biggest problem was, I think, when I was younger, as in immediately prior to my 30th birthday, where I've rebranded, I just don't give a shit anymore, is that I thought I was pretending really well. Like, I thought I was like, yeah, I fit in. Like, yeah, I, like, you know, like I would be only focused on work. Everything was always work related. My feedback was always work related. I was very focused on my role, but and I thought, you know, like, I'm quiet or I can be this, but no, I always got it wrong. Like, I always was too serious or too funny or too direct or too indirect or too much. Like, whatever it was the intensity was just wrong every single time. And because you do stand out, you don't get a lot of social support necessarily, but people certainly love to benefit from your change. It's just really annoying. Like, it's really annoying. Like, you're going to some sort of meeting where something's gone awry and people have asked you to speak up about it. And so, you know, I've gone to the point now where I'm like, if I want to speak about that, I will, and I will bear the consequences of, you know, being the challenging person.
But I mean, I can be in containers and people say, and I'm like sitting on my hands because I'm like,
like this, like dancing,
and they'll be saying to me, what do you think, Jackie? And I'm like, do you really want to know?
I already told them what you thought. The fact that you hadn't spoken yet.
Yeah. I was being telepathying it all through. But basically what I want to say, Elle Zizik, is same. Yeah.
Sincerely same from the bottom of my soul.
Same.
Yeah. And it's just like, I just don't care anymore. That's the conclusion I came to. I'm like, you know what? You don't like me no matter what I do, so I might as well just do the version of myself that I quite like, that I'm pretty like chuffed with. But, you know, like, I am loud. I do ask a million questions. Or I'm not loud, it's just you notice me a lot more than you notice anyone else, because people do notice that kind of freedom, that kind of look where it doesn't look like what's the word? You look dangerous because you look like someone that can't be controlled. And I think that's a really interesting concept, because I like to think I'm very agreeable in the sense of I'm collaborative. I like to look at the ways people can work together. I get a lot of joy and excitement out of it. But people like to associate agreeableness or collaboration with comfortable conversations, and that is not collaboration at all. And people think that to get along you need to agree with others, in the sense of you need to follow the status quo so that you're accepted. And then they think they've got this concept in their head: if I only just get this job promotion, or if I only just get this new type of role, or this, you know, whatever it is, then I'll have more influence and then I can make a difference then. But that's actually such a trap, because you almost got way more bureaucracy the higher up you get, particularly with what's happening at the moment in our healthcare system and Te Whatu Ora. The higher you are, you're a public servant, and then you are walking this ethical tightrope on will I lose my job if I say something about this? And also the duty as a public servant to do the right thing as well. So there's this really interesting disruption happening with our health reforms and our threats to tēnaranga tēnatanga and equity with Māori, particularly within the threat to de-establish te whakawau, I like to blame concussion on every time I can't say a word, but I suck at words in general. But the Māori Health Authority and everything we did in the pie order legislation, and if this teaches us anything, it means that you can't destroy the kaupapa. It's a name, it's a building, it's a logo. Who gives a shit? The kaupapa continues and will continue in even more strength than ever before. So there are a lot of allies, and tangata Titi, the people of the treaty, need to stand up and be counted more than ever. And it is difficult when you have people in the highest of those roles, per se, in our government or in our corporate world, our health public servant roles, when they're not able to say what they want to say, then there's a void of leadership. And that becomes a dangerous precedent, because you get a vocal minority that kind of take up that void space. So I really want to challenge anyone listening of, how to challenge the status quo. Remember that if you're Pākehā, you are the status quo by default. And if you're uncomfortable with starting to talk about it, look to the people that are talking, that is on that that journey of confronting unconscious bias with colonized I'm trying to say too many things all at once, Jackie, is my problem, is going on that decolonization journey as well, and Pākehā, and taking apart those constructs and reckoning with your uncomfortability or what that means for you as Pākehā or non-Māori, and how our silence is really harmful, especially with what's happening now. It shouldn't be up to Māori to be saying, hey, don't do this shit. No, it's 2024. It's up to the people of the treaty to be speaking up about this and saying absolutely not, and not fearing some arbitrary punishment for saying what's correct and right, and what people have been working on forever, and what is our founding agreement as a country in Aotearoa. So there's so much need for support for people challenging the status quo, whether that's on a personal, these micro levels, or if it's on this huge macro level, because the reality is you can't escape them. What is happening within is happening without. So when we look at a society or a critical mass movement, we need to look at what is actually happening within a person, and how does that start to change our societies, and how does that start to contribute to big movements of change as well. And it's all part of it. But I think what people kind of maybe prematurely kind of give up on is, I was shot down for saying what I thought, and now that's hard. Well, you're privileged to be able to, that was the only hard thing that happened, that someone didn't like what you said or didn't like your opinion and was verbally not agreeing with you, when the reality is people are dying earlier than anybody else and are experiencing just blatant racism. I just like to say that word as much as possible. Racism. Because we kind of dance around that a lot, and they're like, what's some issues with equity? I'm like, racism. Just racism is the issue here. So it is a challenge when we've got this void of Pākehā leadership standing up. And I feel like, if you feel strongly about this around it is wrong, just start talking about it. Just start saying about it. Talk about this journey of navigating. What do you do as Pākehā? How do you bring about change? How do you be an ally? What are what are the things that are already happening right now and the spaces that you just aren't aware of? How can you be of value? How can you strengthen that? How can you enhance the voices that are already doing the mahi as well? So I think when we're looking at that, challenging the status quo, and we're looking at all these parts, we're never self-made. It's never just a one-person thing. There's so much kind of at stake, with how this affects people. And there's such a consequence for racking things up, but the consequence of keeping it the same, although it might feel like peace, is actually far more damaging on a spiritual level, and also on just an actual the experience of a human being is worse off, but people are afraid of change, even if it's good change.
Yeah.
But
well, this is the whole reason that I created podcast, which I only launched 2 weeks ago but has imploded, because we don't have the platforms, and I get it, and I look back now, and when I was 11 I wrote to the Pope saying why isn't there altar girls. I wrote to Radio Pacific around the definition of peace, and I've never stopped writing letters, and I didn't realise until I became an accidental advocate of menopause.
I love the accidental, accidental.
Accidental. I when I think about my contract, I literally all I heard was sunsets and warm hugs, but I didn't realise it was going to be like literally breaking ground. But yeah. We, and you've done it too. You've stood on the shoulder of Hekate, and I've stood on the shoulder. I mean, one of my biggest pioneers that I stand on the shoulder, and she's got massive shoulders, is Kate Shepherd, yes, and that's she channels messages to me. My biggest defining moments, both my open heart surgery as an 8-year-old and my Mack truck moment as a 42-year-old, were on her birthday, so there's no coincidence to any of that. Yeah. And look what she did in New Zealand, in the world. Mm-hmm. And so what I would add to what you're saying, and I let you go because you were just beautifully channeling great messages there, and I just wanted to go same. But what I want to add to it is to people is to look out to those of us who have been to the school of hard knocks and get back up again. And I know, like, one of my biggest going against the status quo was very recently when I left bedside nursing after 26 years, and I was in the front line of COVID, and I'd already got the message. I was 5 years into my journey that we did need to create change. And I start, I mean, gosh, I look at my old messages, even last year, like, dare to be different and all this sort of thing. And now I'm like,
let's mess some shit up.
Yeah, we're not different. We're all the same. We're all wanting to live by design, which is peace, joy, harmony, and through whatever, all sorts of stories. We've
got so much more in common than we ever do apart. There's so much common ground.
Yeah. Definitely. And through all that other storytelling, that's why we need to tell these stories.
Yes.
As these other stories, is that we were designed to struggle and be hard, and that disease was part of the journey. And we're now, a lot of us, and I just love this, you and I are chronologically different ages. But literally, I count energy as I count energy. That's how I feel things, and I know in wisdom our energy is the same, and that's what's coming through with us. And that's the beautiful thing, is when you find this courage and you step through those, really, and they are like, it is not unicorns and rainbows. I get it.
It's the biggest lie, and I think that's such a deconstruction moment. And I've spoken to like a few groups of like young health professional students, like medical students, nursing students, and some like those young health professionals. And I literally took them through, because you got, every room is different and every message for a room is different, which is why I drive everyone up the wall when I'm like, of course I wrote the PowerPoint. Of course I did. No, it's just a series of images with really vague statements so I can use it to say whatever I want in my session. But I remember just turning to this room and just asking a few kind of key questions, and I got them to close their eyes and ask various things. To see if I could get a sense of the room and where they were at on these topics. And we're talking about like your identity as a health professional, and just this like beautiful naivety that you're going to go into healthcare and you love helping people, so therefore people are going to like you, your patients are going to like you, the people you're going to work with are going to be grateful for you, you're going to be rewarded for being so good at your job and studying so well, and you're going to be the top of everything. And I was like, people are going to hate you for no reason. People are going to think you're the worst person on the planet, no matter how gracious, how compassionate, how kind you're doing. Has anybody told you that? And they all just looked shocked, like, in deconstructing this. Once I graduate, life's going to be better then. Once I'm a doctor, once I'm a nurse, everything's going to be different then. And I'm going to have something to be proud of, and that's going to make my identity. And I said, the most dangerous thing you can do for your own self-concept is to mistake your job for who you are, to mistake your occupation or your remuneration for who you are as a person. Because I said, once you start experiencing it, because I said you will start experiencing it, and you're all like first to third years, so you might not have been in the big world yet of the society, because we're young and we're learning and we're deconstructing, especially when I'm speaking to an audience of women, or those identifying as women in these groups, around this role we take on as healer, but it's actually as a people pleaser in a lot of circumstances. And we don't want to speak up, especially if you're from a person of a minority group, or not Pākehā, which a lot of this audience was. And so I really wanted to get to the journeyman of, what is your experience? What's the things that you didn't even know all of your peers are experiencing with you, which is the fear that someone's going to take that all away from you if you speak up, which is a thing that can happen. It's a thing that does happen all around the world, for speaking up for doing the right thing, or for speaking up for your rights, or calling out something that you know is wrong. It does come with a consequence, but then the other consequence is that it continues if you don't do anything. So having these conversations around, like, we really need to stop pretending that the journey is easy, that the journey is just, you need to be graceful, and like, it's just, you did something wrong if they didn't like you, or like personalizing this experience. But really, it's not personal, and people, you're the last person someone's actually even thinking about. They just met you, like, just trying to deconstruct this identity with rejection, or with the pain that people may be producing that's coming at your direction, which is actually nothing to do with you, but you're in this role where you were there experiencing it. So what do you tell yourself? What does that mean? How do you let go of it? How do you exercise, say, high cognitive empathy versus affect empathy? And how do you keep your compassion going? And how do you find the spaces where you feel like you're really meant to be, to make that difference? Because, we need our frontline workers as well. But I do feel like, hello, who's that?
Little Benny.
So he's like, yes,
I agree.
But I do feel like there is this branding of healthcare where you feel like you're going to be part of that brand. Like, I'm going to be a great doctor, I'm going to be a great nurse, I'm well respected, I'm well supported, people value my work. But often it's that wounded healer, and I'm sure you can speak a lot to that as well. And so I speak a lot to that around, you're not your job. You're not your job. It's awesome that you have that as something that has a lot of meaning for you. But if that starts to go wrong, you're going to struggle with that later in life, because you're going to feel like you've got nothing outside of that world. And there is a massive world outside of being a health professional or an hospital or what have you. And we got to talk about all these pathways you can go into. Like, look where I've gone and my journey with my career. And like, it's not just the pipeline to school to the hospital. Like, there's so much opportunity.
And that's what I'm really finding with this platform, is really highlighting those who have been led to a traditional role, but how they've cut away but added on, through their everybody. It's through their own pain to purpose, and adding in cutting edge modalities. But I mean, the roles that kids that are at school now, they're going to be doing, they're not actually invented yet.
Yes, exactly.
So
they don't exist yet.
They don't exist, no.
I thought I'd be working as like a period health nurse or period advocate, or even that I had the word period on a window in Ōtepoti Dunedin, like that felt like, I'm like, do I need permission for that? Like, do I need to get permission? Like, you know, the roles I want don't exist yet, and that's the biggest problem so how do we connect the dots? If we can see it, then it means it's possible. And it sucks kind of, I mean, it's a lot of emotional labor, a lot of financial input to be able to do that mahi, and a labor of love to be like, you know what, I'm just going to do it anyway. And I don't have it all worked out, but I'm just going to try.
Well, you look at your story about getting to Wellington. You got there.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll travel with me again. They're like, you and your travel stories, Liz. Like, it's you. You're just create an adventure.
Like adrenaline overload.
And I was so chill. And they were like, we hate this, but we're glad. And I'm like, why? Because weird things like this happen to me, and I've got like an algorithm of like how to solve it really quickly. And it'll all work out. Work out.
Totally, yeah. I'm totally guided. Please,
But I would love to hear like your perspective on like the wounded healer, and even if your journey or a story you want to tell, and around that, like walking that path of breaking through that, because we're socialized into that within our professional programs. We're socialized to have a certain persona or a certain culture, and I felt like I always say, I feel like I wasn't socialized properly into the culture. Like, I feel like I missed those classes, or I missed those unwritten rules.
I mean, I'm a Gen X, so I was very much in Catholic raised, so beautiful family. I just put that out there, beautiful family. But so I am Māori, and I had a health journey as a child. So open heart surgery. My first living memory is waking in surgery as a 4-year-old. So lots of medical trauma. But I didn't know that. I didn't know about sovereignty, consent, body autonomy, and then journeyed through the rites of passage in like a void, like knowledge, and the only light I could see was to go into healthcare, because I was highly empathic and had this health journey. So it made sense. So I did. I went in as an unhealed healer. So one of my big things when I talk to any students and going into healthcare or education is addressing the reasons that they're going in. Really important.
100%.
Yeah. And I've co-authored a book, Letters to the Future Nurse. It's an international book. Yeah. And I rang every university in New Zealand. I personally rang every university that actually trains nurses. And I emailed every single one of them, and none of them have picked that book up. So and I got responses like, it's self-promotion, which we all 22 of us funded it, and any of our royalties are going straight back into charity.
So talking to the wrong people at the moment, what you're actually speaking to is you're adding something of such high value, which is storytelling, back into what is painfully missing from our profession, which is this wound that we have, and letters to ourselves from a place of power and a place of sharing and a place of, this was my journey before you can learn from this journey too, and it's relational. And I get it, because I've had the same things, and I'm like, this is not, we're not speaking the same language here. Like, if people see that, they're like afraid that you're making money off someone, or you're making this, where you're actually looking at ways to go, people are crying out so desperately to have a space to feel what they went into the profession in the first place for, that there's been tragically lost along the way. And I'm such a lover of storytelling. And, you know, my first thought, again, from my lived experience and my perspective, was I was like, oh my gosh, this is phenomenal. This is amazing. But, you know, not everyone is on that journey yet. And, you know, those seeds that we plant of curiosity, they may not resonate with it now, but 10 years later, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to receive that message. Because a lot of, even the language that you use, like, when did I meet Anna? Like 2016, 2017? Words like transformational leadership and like value-based and all of those types of words, they didn't exist back then. Everyone didn't know what the heck you were saying. Like, to be like, it just didn't, it wasn't there. And now you see it left, right, and center. There's all this kind of like transformational, like agent of change, like transformational leader, you know, squad lead. Like, they didn't exist before now. But, you know, it's people like yourself, people like Anna, that lots of people have been doing the mahi who have no light on them whatsoever, and they're just doing the mahi. They've been doing this since ages ago, but now there's this collective consciousness that is catching up and going, actually, we need this. And then we get into a new problem of, we hire people for these roles, but we have older style attitudes and mentalities that kind of stifle them the moment they do anything with these new workers that they're working with, because they have no idea what the heck it is. And you get the secondary kind of trauma or burden when you are tangata whenua, or you are representing your culture that is striving for that equity and self-determination, that you not like that though. Like, we want you to do it, but like not like that though, like not really. And so you feel an extra level of distress because it matters so deeply and so much. And then you're in these positions thinking you could make more change here because you've got a bit more influence, and then you kind of got less than ever because there's so much bureaucracy. So having these ability to have stories and finding each other through stories and what they're doing, and having these spaces to connect and laugh and cry and just find ways to forge paths together. I think our communities, like especially in our set, are just kind of catching up. People have been doing this for ages, just they haven't been getting as far as what they could if they had 100% backing.
Oh, look, we've had events here where we've sat in circle with men and women, all ages, and you know, I just adore it when we get the crones and the wise people in here and feel absolutely safe to share what is actually coming up for them in that given moment. And that's what I think is really important. And I know when I went 8 years ago for what was available, I didn't feel that safety. I didn't feel that safety to show up in that given moment, because it was a given moment, and they do pass, and they still come and go. You know, like despite all the tools that I've got in my kitty, they still come and go because that's part of the human experience. And I think it's actually the panacea. I think it's the only way that we can sustain and keep a simple and, like I usually say, health and education, but I actually mean world. I actually mean the world.
And what I mean by that is like the whole world.
The whole world.
Just like so we're clear.
Yeah. like everybody. Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah. And the more that I practice it myself, the more that I activate others to practice it, and the more that those I've activated, because that's now where Heart Place Hospital's gone to, is that it's more than me. And I've always said that I'm not the solution, I have the solution. The more that we activate and then reactivate and then activate more and then more and more and more, we've got this revolution, and then there's more and more of us who are safely showing up as we are in that given moment. Yes. And taking that opportunity to actually feel it and reveal it, deal it and heal it. And had a great talk.
We need to like re-say that, and like that's your intro. Like, that was fantastic. That was amazing.
Yeah. And I mean we need a show We need a show, Elle. Zizik, we need a show.
As long as it's a really comfortable couch and maybe a weighted blanket, like I'm there, and some snacks, like I'm there.
Two things, both there.
Yeah.
We've got the heart chakra couch and a weighted blanket. That was my accidental gift when I left bedside nursing, aka I took it.
Your secret's safe with us and everyone.
Yeah, there's many secrets on this journey, many ninjaing, many stories. It's going to be a great movie. And so I'm going to wind us up because I want to keep this palatable and listenable. But I think we should do it again. I'd love to invite you back, and and I think we can find another goddess dress to come back.
Come in matching again. Yeah. And there's so many things that I would love to talk to, and as you know, I love to talk, but I've got so many different things and different aspects, and I've just been starting to write on LinkedIn, also trying to make LinkedIn slightly funner. So
me too.
Come join me in the comments section. But I've just started writing on my journey of letters to myself on being profoundly gifted. And so that might be some lexicon that people aren't familiar with, or for those that are listening who know the gifted to ADHD pathway diagnosis, you might be a little bit more familiar with it. But my experiences as a kid, I didn't quite fit anywhere, and I skipped quite a few grades. I think I skipped 3 grades and then came down 1 grade. So all my memories are a little odd with schooling, because I'm I think I was this age, and no, because you would have been this and you're in school. And I was it didn't take me till I got a little bit older, and I was oh, that's right, because it was kind of hidden from me, because they didn't want me to change or be too different from these kind of tests that they did on me. But my lived experience was just so different. And I think I wrote in this letter there that I made, my first official hospital complaint at 7 or 8 years old, that was upheld, and you can read the journey of that there too. But I just figured now that I'm in my I don't give a shit era, I was just going to start talking and start sharing my experience to my lived truth, so that other people can start sharing theirs, because there's so much value in it. So I can't wait to talk about all those different aspects, and talk about where we're going, and especially about menstrual health and hormonal health, because that's
my gosh, we didn't even go there.
I'm oh my god, everyone's gonna be Liz, you had one job, and that was to introduce yourself. Probably yes, co-founder of a menstrual health and hormone telehealth clinic. There it is, it's in there. But it's not about me, it's about everyone else.
Right. Exactly.
So I forget famously to always say what I know,
because I envisaged I was going to be saying, I've referred lots of people to Hekate, and the one thing that I say to them every time they're going to you, I go, just to let you know, the number one thing on the top of your prescription is going to be rest. So, just to warn you. And the other day I got invited to a menopausal webinar, which I do all the time, and someone said, you're going to love it, they're innovative, and they had on the list day naps, and I was so excited. I was yes, they've got my attention, yay, dancing. And then she said, and avoid day naps, and I was no.
Siestas are in. They are in, especially for spicy brains. That's the only time it stops. We need to shut it offline and sleep.
My entire family, my entire movement, everybody knows that Jackie witch kips in the afternoon. So
I'm there.
And I now have people go, have you got any space after or before your witch kip? I'm whoa, it's spreading. I like it. But
thank you so much for having me on the podcast, and I hope that people get some value out of what we've been talking about. So if you're challenging the status quo, you're not alone, my friends, and you chose it when you started challenging it. You're on this is a canon event now. What part in the canon event are you in? Tell us.
That's
where are you at?
I know, and I say to people, I'm selling the popcorn, I'm selling the front row seats. Come on. Yeah. Oh, well, so delicious, delicious, delicious to hang out with you in your pink shoes and your fabulous dress. Great taste. And where can everyone find you? I know it's Hekate, but is it what is it on Instagram and where are you?
So the website www.hekate.nz. All our social handles are Hekate Clinic, and you can find me on LinkedIn where I'm saying lots of different things all the time under Elizabeth Zizik, and it's just we've got such an amazing movement at the moment with menstrual health and awareness, right? And menopause is like there's been some amazing people pioneering those conversations, and that's at a critical mass at the moment. So just get amongst it, and if you want to get involved, see how you can be of service, and just DM everyone. Everyone's really friendly and always willing to see how they can help as well. But that's where you can find us there as well. I'm like, yep, I'm just saying the same thing again now. Yep, online. Hekate Clinic.
Lots of kisses.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, see you, Goddess.
This week.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
That's